me?
Now I can.
Four hosts, they bout to wreck shit like Marco. Addicted to the Giants like it's Netflix and Narcos. The CEO making big moves as per usual. Captain Negative calling everybody delusional. This podcast is number one. Like when you take a piss, so share the link and pass it. Like Big Jamaican spliffs and Mr. Make-A-Wish. The sophisticated click, I spit offensive lines. Now Tim can take a sip of some beer because he likes the taste of it, right? Don't forget the New York Giants beat the Patriots twice. The sickest dudes eating chips and salsa like it's Victor Cruz. Win or lose, always gonna root for Big Blue. It's true. This a classic show. Tyree, catch it, bro. Play a drinking game while you listen and call it Plaxico. Take a couple shots. If it's funny, you can rewind to bleed blue. Means it's in their jeans like Levi's. Eli, man, the shit just like a sailor. Captain, we attacking bum rush like Lawrence Taylor. Podcast on point, the sharp as arrows. BBG stay gritty like Mark Bavaro.
I think that's it. I think we are on.
I get out of breath every time I sing that live. I hope I sounded okay.
So difficult. It's so difficult.
Marco, send me the link. I'm going to tweet this stuff out. The link is different, right? The one that people can come join us with?
To join on to the podcast or just listen to?
To listen in, yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Do that.
What's going on, sir?
Everybody?
It's been a while. Jack, how's it going? Will, how's it going?
Marco?
I mean,
hanging in.
It's been a while.
It's like a totally different scenario since when we first spoke.
I mean, before the season, I wasn't sure if 11 weeks in, if we would either be like awful, like 4-7, or be like in first place in the division. I wasn't sure which of those things was going to happen.
Right.
I didn't think they could happen at the same time.
It's 2020.
It's 2020. Exactly. Our vision has never been more unclear. Carson Wentz just got jacked a little bit. First comment of the day. Cam Fleming has got to go. Well, we all know he injected Pert's water supply with COVID to get himself one last chance, and then he got, I think, I haven't seen that much holding since Jack and Rose at the end of Titanic.
There you go.
I wasn't
there
waiting.
You go.
Holding on to that one.
Can everyone hear us? Are we coming in loud and clear? Let's see. I think we are.
Let's see if we're coming in. Can you guys hear me? Eli, sit.
Omaha.
You know, I called the Giants one time. Coughlin was still the coach. Mm-hmm. And Eli would get to the line, and he would audible, and he would say, East, and they would run to the right. Or he would say, West, and they would run to the left. So I called up Eli. So I called up the Giants, and I got through to some like secretary of the coach's office or something. And I was like, yeah, I have to say something about the play calling, whatever. And he goes, I know. Coach Coughlin has to cover his mouth because you can see what he's saying on TV. I said, no. Whenever you audible east, you run to the right. Whenever you audible west, you go to the left. I'm like, if I'm picking this up from TV, you don't think the other coaches are picking this up? At least do the opposite thing. Say east and it means west. But I think that's all Eli can handle, maybe. I don't know.
We've called them a few times while we were doing the podcast, just to and left that no one ever picked up. I had the direct number to Ben McAdoo and Jerry Reese.
You Larry Kingdom. East Rutherford, New Jersey, you're on the line.
So we would spam their mailbox. They would never pick up.
That's so funny.
So here we are. As of right now, Seattle is up 7-0 last I checked, so we are still in first place for the division. 14-0 now. They scored in the meantime.
And the Eagles look bad.
Yeah. And I think it's going to the same thing, even if we lose to Seattle next week.
If
the other NFC East teams have to play Green Bay, Baltimore, I believe, and Seattle.
I thought Pittsburgh had to play
Oh,
Washington.
Pittsburgh. That's right.
Any way you look at it, Giants have the hardest remaining schedule of the 4 teams. Even if it's by a little bit, whether you look at the amount of winnable games they have left, I would say they have one that I feel like would be like Dallas. Could they beat Cleveland? Maybe Arizona. I don't think, but for the most part, you're probably looking at one more possible win. Whereas like Dallas, who's up and down. I mean, who the hell knows what they're doing? But their schedule is significantly. They have like 3 or 4 quote unquote winnable games left. But the Giants are kind of playing. Look, they've won 4 of their last 7. Their 3 losses were a combined 6 points. But we got to talk Jones injury. We got to talk about this. I mean, you can see the dust coming off of Colt McCoy. How can he call himself Colt anymore? He's way too old for that, I think. Isn't a colt a baby? I'm not much of an equestrian, but isn't a colt a young
pony?
Maybe, I guess.
Yeah, besides the San Francisco game, we've been in every single game. That was the letdown.
Yeah, you can't expect them to hang in there against the 39ers, though.
Yeah.
The backups of the 49ers. So what are you guys thinking? I mean, we got to talk Jones. We got to talk the great debate dividing many Giants fans right now. Art Stapleton, that's his last name, right? He came down hard. Like any Giants fan who says anything but playoffs and whatever is like a terrible Giants fan. And I'm there liking all the comments of the people that are going against him.
Were you?
Well, because okay, let me ask you this though. Would you? I said this is my stance on this. If the Giants rattle off wins, go like 7-9, and compete in a playoff game respectively, yeah, sign me up 100%. That's worth losing 10 draft picks. Because for anybody who doesn't know, if the Giants are probably picked between 7 and 10, but if you win the division, you automatically go to 19. But if they're going to win 5 games and limp ass backwards into a playoff game that they just get killed in, to me, that's not worth losing 10 picks over. And that's not like playoff experience like everyone's talking about. Where do you guys fall on that spectrum?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay.
What if they win 6 games and make the playoffs?
You're hurting my extreme example.
I think 6 games is realistic in winning the division.
It is.
What happened? How do you feel about it then? See,
I have to think on that.
I'm in the position right now where there's really not a draft target that I'm looking at saying I want that guy from realistically what will be if we only win, say, 5 games.
Right.
So then to me, it kind of comes down to, is it worth more to the team, to the coach, to the quarterback to just squeak into the playoffs with a crap record like that and kind of gain that experience? Maybe they play a tough game and take that into the next season. I don't know. I've never felt that way before about a 6-10 division winner, but I kind of feel that way right about now.
I feel you. And Marco, I want to know what you think about this, but I think the thing kind of you have to keep in perspective is it's not just the first round. You can't say, well, who's in there between 10 and 20? You're losing 10 picks every round. So you're missing on that guy you want in the second. You're missing on that guy you want in the third. It's not just, if I can't get the top 7 guys, I don't care about, 10 to 20. It's every time I do a mock now on Draft Network, I'm like, oh man, I missed out on that edge that I had been getting in the third round. I missed out on that corner that I, say goodbye to Asante Samuel Jr. and Paulson Adebo and those guys, right? What are you thinking, Marco?
I think I shit on the Seattle Seahawks when they went 7-9 and made the playoffs and they actually won the game. And now be the position of the Giants, who are possibly going to make it at 6-10. Oh man, it's such a mixed bag. I hate losing. Number one, I hate that we lose. I hate that we're not really respectable. And then you're going to squeak into the playoffs. You're probably going to play Tampa Bay, maybe someone else.
I mean, we hung in there against Tampa. You know, Brady doesn't want to see that blue.
Well, like I said earlier, all the games have been close except the one San Francisco game.
Wait, how would it work if we did get in? We would be the 4 seed.
Right.
Only the 1 has a bye now.
Right. So it's
7. How many teams get in? I don't even know.
The 2 and the 7. No. Didn't they just push it to 8 teams now?
I think it's possibly. Yeah, I think the whole.
So many changes, I forget.
Oh, but we'd end up playing the 5.
Well, it was 7 teams, so it'd be 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. If there's still 7 teams, I think there might be 8 now.
Maybe but how the hell could you do 8 teams? You'd have to have 2 buys.
There'd be no buys, maybe.
Either way, we probably
the whole COVID monkey wrench on everything is really throwing me for a loop. I thank God I'm not playing fantasy football this year because I have a hard enough to keep track when games are on Thursday, and now they're basically throughout the whole week. I would be totally screwed.
The 5 would be okay. For all intents and purposes, we would play the team with the best record that did not win their division, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I don't even honest to God, because of this whole year and everything, Jack, you know this. I couldn't tell you other than like I could say, oh, that team's good, but I don't know who's like winning what divisions. You got got the Packers and the Saints.
Yeah, Saints are the ones.
Saints won.
And then there's 3 teams, by the way, that statistically are just the 3 best in football right now, and it's the Chiefs, the Steelers, and the Saints. There's a huge gap between them and everybody else. When you look at like the plus minus too, those are all over like 100 point, like the points, 4 points against like the differential. No one else is even like over 80. Like they're kind of in a league of their own. So then what's the other division then? Who's, if it ended today?
It's probably going to be somebody, I wouldn't say probably, you don't know, but
who's the West?
Someone from the West. So
Seattle's
leading, and then you got the Rams and the Cardinals, I believe, with 4 losses each. Do the Cardinals have 5? I'll take a look.
Right.
They're close in there. The West is a little more tight than the other ones.
And the Bucks also are 7 and 5.
All right, so then realistically, I think we could win the division, win a playoff game, and sneak our way into a Super Bowl upset. I'm just saying, I think it's probably going to happen.
Listen, that'll be some story.
Cardinals are 6 and 5. Rams 7 and 4.
I will say this: I like winning games with defense, and that's a good recipe to be. That's a good recipe to be going that.
Do you guys know that the Giants right now, they have the 9th ranked defense in football? It's gotten even better than when they got up to the hot start. They're 9th and 10th in points allowed per game and yards allowed per game. I forget which is which. 9th is points.
I didn't know the yards.
So yeah, they're 10th in yards. Their rush defense is 5th in football. And the pass defense is about maybe average or a little below average. But that's where I come and I say to Jack all the time when we talk, okay, so if the defense is good, because I would say that's good. It's not very good. It's not average. It's not solid. I think if you're 10th or 9th, I'd say that's a good defense. If your defense is good and the special teams, barring a couple plays this past week, have been good, and you're 4 and 7, then you look at the offense. And really right now, besides the Jets, who are having an all-time offensive struggling year, and probably the Bears have kind of eclipsed the Giants. The Broncos in a couple categories after you take into account yesterday, but you can't even count that. Giants pretty much have the 3rd worst offense in football. And I feel like everybody's saying, well, the offensive line's decent now, and the receivers are decent, and Jones is decent. They can't all be decent, or we wouldn't have the 3rd worst offense.
The problem is that they're all decent at different periods of time. They're not all collectively decent at that time.
I have mixed reviews on Jason Garrett because you're right. The offense should be better. And looking at last year, it was probably about 8 to 10 spots ranking better than it is right now. And they really don't have many changes. So it's like it's not like their offensive line was good last year either. So like really what's going on? And to me, Daniel Jones looks better overall as a quarterback than he did last year, yet the offense still doesn't score as many points. I don't know.
I think Jones looked better last year, barring the fumbles, if you can separate those two. I haven't really seen him open up and be like aggressive, and he did that a lot last year. He had those 4 or 5 games of 4 touchdowns and 8 million yards and no picks. He hasn't had a game like that. Like everyone's complimenting him because he hasn't turned the ball over the last few weeks. He hasn't done anything. Like he hasn't done touchdowns. So yeah, of course you're not going to turn the ball over if you just hold on to it.
No negatives is a positive, though.
I'm already pissed that we're already playing like the don't make mistakes with this guy, and I don't know. I don't want that. That's not a good quarter. That's like, I don't want a game manager to be in the conversation. I don't want it to be a fear-driven decision making a year and a half into his tenure, unless you think they grow out of that.
I think.
Well, there are plays where you're seeing him. There are plays where you're seeing him hit big bombs, receivers are dropping them, so we know that there's talent there.
Well, we saw but after last week's game, he was 5th in passes 10 yards or more or 20 yards or more in the league, something like that, right?
No. Well, accuracy-wise, he was first by the 5 you're thinking of. He was 5 percentage points more accurate than Rodgers, Brady, Mahomes, and Russell Wilson, who were the rest. In passes over 10 yards, he is by far the most accurate quarterback in the NFL, which is crazy.
Let's get to a few comments. Jesse Bryan, he's new. He just subscribed. Wants our thoughts on Colt McCoy.
I know nothing. That's going to be a Jack question, probably.
I mean, he's a journeyman. Exactly. He's your clear-cut backup quarterback. Going against Seattle next week, I'm really only watching the offensive line because I can't even judge the defense fairly because I'm going to assume that they'll be on the field almost the whole game, which won't be fair to them. So I'm going to give the Giants defense most likely a pass. So I'm really looking at the offensive line next week. I can't really expect anything else.
It should be noted that Seattle has one of the worst defenses in the NFL, which is a crazy sentence you never thought you'd hear, but
they do.
Points per game, they give up 28-point-something points per game, and they give up more yards than any team in the NFL. So if the Giants had Jones, which they're not, all the reports say, it seems like he's hurt. He's probably not going to play this week. They'll try to get him on the field next week. I don't even care, honestly. I'd let him just sit. Hammy, you don't want to mess with him. I would sit his ass for 2 weeks. I don't care, honestly.
I think I'd let him sit 100% this week because you have actually more of a legitimate shot to beat the Cardinals, I think, than you do the Seahawks. Even though the Seahawks defense is so bad, they just added Carlos Dunlap a couple of weeks ago, and it actually has made a decent impact on their defense. Still not great, but they're not nearly as bad as they were early in the year.
Yeah.
We'll probably see Xavier McKinney maybe in a more of an increased role next week too. Should be interesting. What else we got?
Who's a bigger priority to re-sign, Ryan or Williams?
Ryan or Williams, huh?
Ryan's the hot. This last week he's become the hot guy.
I don't think Ryan's going to break the bank as compared to Leonard Williams.
Two very different contracts.
Yeah.
Although I think Leonard Williams is the more important player. I think you could find guys like Ryan to play safety almost every year. There's a reason why he was a free agent until third week of the season. There's always a safety out there you can grab.
Leonard Williams, or I would say, Bradbury early on, but Leonard Williams might be the team's MVP. Might be. You could say Martinez or Bradbury. You could say, I don't really think you could say anybody on the offense necessarily. And how many safeties do you need? Really, the only reason we got Ryan was because McKinney went down, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So once McKinney comes back, if he's any semblance of anything, and Peppers has been playing pretty decent, I would say
they seem to be bringing in McKinney pretty slowly, which is okay by me. I think he only got in.
I think it's 6 snaps.
6.
I thought it was 3 and a couple on special teams.
Specials, yeah. 6.
But they could probably. So if they re-sign Leonard Williams, they'll probably have room to sign one major player in the offseason. And I don't know Logan Ryan, though. Is he the kind of guy who you can sneak a contract in also and get another big player and Ryan and Williams? Because as a safety, is he really going to command that much of our cap?
One, you also have Dalvin Tomlinson that you need to make a decision on. He's a free agent. And then 2, next year is Pepper's 5th year option. Mm-hmm. So you can decide this offseason, do you rather have Ryan long-term or do you want Peppers long-term? I don't know the answer to that, really. I think they're very, very similar.
Yeah. But I feel comfortable if you keep Peppers or Ryan and McKinney is in there.
Comes along.
Is in there.
Peppers is, Yardley, what does he say? Yardley with a super chat. We need 2 out of the next 4 and definitely beat the Cowboys. That gets you that brings us at 7 then.
That would be probably
7 wins would definitely win the division. I think the Giants are in for kind of a rude awakening. It's kind of it's very unfortunate for Newbers, a number of reasons that Jones isn't there. They're not going to beat Seattle with Colt McCoy. It's just not happening. He won't be able to throw the ball. It's just too much of an ask. And then I think the Giants might kind of run into a team. Like I could see Arizona like beating the Giants by like 14 points and fans being like, oh yeah, like, we won a few games, but it was against some not great teams. And like, the Giants are not a good team. And I just think that someone like maybe Arizona or even like Cleveland just comes in and kind of puts a little bit of a whooping on them. And all of a sudden it kind of gets like, back to reality. I thought that'd be this week, but no matter what happens this week, people are just going to say, well, Jones was out. And speaking of DJ, and I know you guys saw this earlier, and this is credit to Jack, who pays for both of our PFF accounts. I don't have one. I just call him when I need one. I'm a moocher.
The shared.
But 2020 PFF grades for quarterbacks drafted since 2018. A little research done by yours truly. Because that's how I look at it, right? We started thinking we need a quarterback, and it was either going to be 3 years ago, 2 years ago, or last year. How long do we hang on to Eli? We were thinking about guys like Herbert or Baker or Darnold, and we passed on certain guys and the Haskins. Well, as of right now, for the guys in the last 3 years, the PFF grades, which is not the end all, Josh Allen is the best of them with an 84.1. Murray is 83.5 right there. And number 3 out of there's probably 12 or so quarterbacks that are starting, that are playing, that were drafted in the last 3 years, is Daniel Jones with an 80.4, which is his highest cumulative grade of the year. And then it goes, he just took over for 3rd place from Lamar Jackson, then Justin Herbert, Burrow, Mayfield, Minshew, and then even Tua and Locke are ahead of Darnold. And then Haskins is down at a 46.7. So, it's pretty. Oh yeah, I love how the Jets fans were. The headlines were like, oh, Darnold's back. Here we go. Let's go 3 points. What happened? I mean, come on. But Daniel Jones, it's like God. He plays just well enough where you can't dismiss the guy. But he's just then it's like, I don't know if he has that killer instinct. He doesn't win games yet.
I mean, when we were staring at the 1st round pick, I was ready to dismiss him.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we said this last year, but next year is going to be the year. That's the year 3. Make the biggest jump as a quarterback in your NFL career and see what you got. Especially as in the Giants, they should be progressively getting better as year 1 for Jones, 2, and then now 3.
So
this year has been less highs and less lows, right? Less fumbles, less turnovers, but less huge games. There hasn't been less scoring. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if he's being smart or scared. I don't know. What are you saying, Marco?
So Intel Gatson has the intel saying he doesn't think we're going to lose that badly to Seattle. Why don't you explain yourself? Mike A. Jones is going to be fine. New system, changes along the way. And Gates has been playing very bad. He hasn't been playing very bad, I don't think.
Gates is statistically one of the worst centers in the entire NFL, if not the worst center in the NFL.
I think he's actually moving up every week, by the way, Will. Now,
yeah. What does he got now? 29?
About 28. before you bite my head off, they still, I think, need a new center next year. But
Yeah.
I will give that comment that's true.
Has it been that bad? I haven't seen him get blown up.
No, he didn't allow any pressures last on Sunday. I believe out of 81 snaps. Obviously, not all passing, but I mean, he's been better. He hasn't been good, but he has been better.
They don't move anybody. They just don't move anybody. They all just kind of plant their feet and guys kind of get in. They don't open holes for people. They kind of, their pass blocking has been like better. People haven't been getting beat outright like they were. Although it happens occasionally. I just don't think Cincinnati's D-line is that great.
Yeah, I was gonna say it happened this week, but it's Cincinnati.
Alex Pintos, any word on Daniel Dimes? Yes. He most likely is going to sit one game.
Yeah.
It's basically no major damage.
Not as serious as they thought at first.
Giant Opinion Sports, very insightful. What up, y'all? What's up, Giant Opinion Sports? Peppers is younger, right? Peppers younger than Logan.
Yes.
Ryan, yes. How costly is it that Fleming had to start in place of Pert? Pert's kind of an interesting thing because it's like a very small sample size with I think a lot of Giants fans like myself also are kind of cheering Pert on and believing in him maybe more than we even should be because we've been thus far disappointed by Andrew Thomas. And we're like, well, forget Thomas, but Pert's the guy. You know what I mean? I think we're doing that a little bit. But yes, I do think that Pert is slightly better than Fleming at this point.
You don't think there's been a difference in Thomas the past 4 games?
There has been. Yeah, he went from abysmal to not that great.
To not that great. Serviceable? Would you say serviceable? What's the level above not that great?
I would say he's been average over the past 4 games.
His run blocking is still in the 50s grade, which is below average. His pass blocking is about average. Well, they watch every single play of every single player. They have one job.
To counter Will's PFF argument, the running I think has gone down, but I think we all can agree we care more about his pass blocking at the moment, and that has graded in the 60s at least for the past 4 weeks, and he never had one grade like that before that stretch. So take that how you want.
Emil laying back watching you guys on my 65-inch TV in the living room is pretty cool. Some handsome faces here, I must say.
We'll how to ruin it.
I know, right? Jeez, you had to show them your tonsils.
I don't have them, so.
What type of
nurse you are? I got my tonsils taken out when I was 8. I would have thought as a medical professional you would have recognized that.
I was looking at the comment, not your tonsils. What type of 65-inch TV are you watching us on?
I'm gonna guess Samsung.
I would think that's a popular one.
Maybe a Sony.
I'm gonna say LG.
LG.
So, I just want to make sure, guys, that we don't turn into the Jets. I just want to make sure we don't turn into Jets fans. I want to make sure that we haven't lowered the bar so much that we don't realize how bad we are. And I'm saying to myself, everybody's being positive about the Giants. Everybody is saying, like, Thomas is playing better. Gates is playing better. This one's playing better. The O-line's doing good. This one didn't give up any this. This one didn't give up any pressures. PFF says this, that. And I'm like, but we're still 4-7. Our offense is still pretty damn bad. There has to be a reason. And if Shepard's above average, and if Jones is average, and if Slayton's above average, like Ingram only leaves the offensive line. They don't open holes for running backs, and then our receivers don't get open necessarily when they do pass block well.
If we're saying the skill positions are there, and we're saying the quarterback has, Shepard is good. Slayton is good. Tate is solid. Then you have Ingram, who shown flashes, but has been underwhelming at points.
Mark, you want to hear an interesting stat about Ingram? Will knows where I'm going with this. I saw this today. This year, Ingram has been involved in 50%.
Oh, I saw this.
Turnovers. That is something I've never seen before. 12 weeks into the season.
He's Gary Sanchez. Every once in a while, he'll hit an 800-foot home run, and everyone talks about his talent, and people think he's a good guy and he works hard. But ultimately, I think I hate to use this word, but I think he's a cancer on the team. It just seems like those momentum moments when things are going well. Like the Giants were 10-10 in the third quarter in this game. It didn't have to be. They were driving, about to take like a 10-point lead at some point or a 7-point lead. And that just let Cincy kind of back in the game or kept them in the game. It's just
it's deflating.
He's deflating. He is deflating. It's like when Sanchez, for any Yankee fans out there, when he strikes out with the bases loaded or something, it's even more devastating than the play itself because it sucks the momentum out of everything. And even on his diving catches, like he's bobbling it, trying to hold it in, like he just doesn't. This is what I say about Ingram.
He's Larry Donnell flip. Yeah.
He's a triple threat, Ingram, right? He's a triple threat. He can't block, he can't catch, and he can't stay on the field.
I think he definitely is probably the most frustrating Giant I've watched in a while.
Yes.
He would be more okay with me if he was more the threat in the red zone. And he's not. He doesn't score.
Unless they're handing it off.
He went 6 for 129 yesterday. Yeah, it was fantastic.
It's speed yards to catch rather than when it's tight.
But every time we're in the 10-yard line or shorter, he's useless. And
what is the greatest Ingram play of all time?
What'd you say?
What's the greatest Ingram Giant thus far in his career?
Is this a sarcastic response?
That's a difficult question to.
No, I'm being serious.
But going back to what I was saying.
Wait, you remember Marco?
His greatest play?
Yeah.
I can't even remember.
Last year, Daniel Jones' first win.
The Bucks. I knew it.
Giants losing by 18 points at half, and on like the third play or the first play of the second half, something. He had a little crossing route. He ran 74 yards or whatever for a touchdown, and it sparked a whole Daniel Jones' first win, comeback, everything like that. Since then, his best play has been like a drop when it didn't deflect into a defender's hands.
All right, so back to my original point. So we have I think the offensive woes either come down to the offensive line, hence a coach getting fired, or the play calling. If you're saying that the other skill positions are either there or someone who's serviceable, those are the only two other options.
No, I think I do like Shepard and Slayton a lot. Tate.
You saw the comment?
I've gotten that before. Yes, Emil. It is me. Soik.
Hold on. Ready?
I think she's talking about you, Marco.
There we go. There it is. There's Ashton.
Dude, where's my car?
We have a few ladies listening into the podcast. That's usually a rare one. But
I mean, Shepard and Slayton I like. Tate I think has been irrelevant. I think he's been open at times and they just don't really look his way. I don't really know what that's all about. He's been obviously I think worse than last year, and Ingram has been worse than last year. So I think it's just been it's been a disappointing year for our weapons, even though we say we like a lot of the pieces.
Hey, Marco.
Yeah, I would agree. It's hard to come up with a counterpoint to that. They underwhelming.
Yeah, because I was okay with the weapons at the start of the season, and I was wrong. They have underwhelmed.
Yeah. Marco, I think you might appreciate this because I think I'm seeing kind of as like a pessimist maybe with the Giants.
Yeah.
All right. I'll tell you this much. And this is a big if. I'm not going to talk about how they could get it done. Drafts a crapshoot, signing people, injuries, whatever. I think this Giants team is too good, not average, good offensive linemen and one very good wide receiver away from being, forgive me for saying, like an 8-9 win team who actually has a chance to like do something in the playoffs. Like just those three positions. I think that the defense is there and Jones is kind of playing well enough, but he just needs a little more time. The running backs need a little more room, and they need that one receiver who can bust open. Now it's difficult because are you really going to bring in another like tackle? Like you're obviously going to see what Pert and Thomas are going to do next year. They're big investments. They've shown like just enough. But then I guess it comes down to the interior line. Like these guys like the Shane Lemieux, who's playing decent, and like Gates, who's playing better. Like those guys, to me, it just kills me because like it's just going to keep them in the lineup, but they're not actually like good. Like I want to sign that center in the offseason. I want to bring in an offensive lineman in the first 3 rounds. And I want to draft, again, forgive me, probably draft a wide receiver if it's Chase or Waddle or even Devontae Smith in the first round, but preferably one of the first 2. I would do that. You got it when your defense is 9th and your offense is 30th.
Now, do you have the trust in Dave Gettleman that he can do all that?
No.
And maintaining the pieces that we do have.
I think he'll be fired if we don't make the playoffs.
If we
make the playoffs, that's probably the most thing that I'm nervous about. It's not that we have a worse draft pick or anything like that. It's if Dave Gettleman's going to be there in 2021.
Originally, when we were doing all the predictions for the seasons, I had the Giants winning 5 games. We're right about there, and I thought they were going to fire Dave Gettleman. I did not account for the NFC East being total shit, and 5 wins could put you in a playoff hunt. That I didn't.
I think the Giants will win 5 games. I think they'll either beat Dallas or they'll pull one out somehow against maybe an Arizona or a Cleveland, maybe. But I think overall you're looking at 5 wins. Here's one. Would you rather go 7-9 and miss the playoffs or 5-11 and make the playoffs?
5-11 and make the playoffs.
That's like saying
But isn't the other one the better team? And then you get the better you did better and you get a better pick. You might get a better pick at 7-9 than you would at 5-11, right?
No, you would. No, you would. You would.
So in that scenario, you have a better year and you get a better pick. How do you not choose that?
I guess I'm just thinking of where the Giants are. Like I rather the pick is not that far apart, so I'd rather get the playoff experience.
Who would you drop? Intel. What do you mean? Who would I drop? Like on the offensive line? Like which guy? I'm not sure what you're talking about like that. Allen Robinson and a center. Boom. Yeah, but they probably can't afford both unless they cut one of the DTs.
Seeing a lot of Allen Robinson signing comments, and that would be fantastic. But I don't think people are aware of our cap situation. It's not the best, especially with the cap going down next year. I think we have. I know we have. I looked it up. We have $21 million in cap right now, and we can cut guys like Zeitler and Tate to save another $24 million. Now that gives us what, like $45 million? You got Leonard Williams that you probably are signing. That's about 16 to 18. You got to make a decision on Dalvin Tomlinson. That'd be probably another 10. So that's 24 right there. You have maybe 20 left.
Did you mention Solder?
So Solder screwed us. I know I'm not going to rip on him because he has a sick kid and all that stuff. So I know he's got to do his thing. But Solder's contract is now pushed back a whole year. So if he played this year, it was going to count towards his contract, and we could have cut him after this season with no guaranteed money. Now that he didn't, if we cut him next year, it leaves, I think, at least 13 mil dead in cap out of the 16. So you're stuck with him. You're stuck with him for one more year, and it stinks.
And if I was him, it's not my money to retire. You signed the contract,
right?
Even if
I feel I asked a good question because when I asked the 7-9 or miss or make the playoffs, we had 2 responses and one of each. So 50-50. These are the kind of questions I bring to the podcast.
That's why I invited you on.
Now, Intel says, who would I drop from the offensive line? The first thing I think you need to do, what I would do is sign a center Andrews and Lindsley are two guys. Lindsley's a lot better. He might not get let go, but two guys under 29 who are either good or very good would be an improvement. As the captain, the quarterback of your offensive line, it brings toughness, brings experience. He can direct people, work ethic, things like that. And honestly, and I don't know what you guys think about this, I kind of just, they've been bouncing guys around. They've been playing rotations. I kind of just want to bring in the best available lineman at one position in the draft, whether it's first round, second round, third round. I just kind of just bring in the best guy and just move guys around as necessary. Like, do you think that, let's say there's a really good tackle available or something like that, or a really good guard, and you're like, well, we have that. We want to keep this guy at this position. Or if there's just a beast that's available that falls to you, if Cosme or Slater or somebody falls to you in the second round or something, would you just take a guy and just shuffle positions around and just put the 5 best offensive linemen on the field? Or do you think you kind of got to keep, Thomas at tackle? I don't mind putting Thomas at guard. He doesn't have to move around as much. Maybe he could play better. What do you guys think?
Most of the time, I would agree with you. I think this time, unfortunately, they're just – Thomas being the number 4 pick, I'd be fine moving him to guard too, but I just don't see that being realistic.
No, it's not going to happen, but I want to know what you guys think of that idea. I know the Giants are not going to do it, but what do you think of that idea?
I feel like they're doing that already, putting guys in, switching out the line mid-games, trying to get guys.
Well, that is Judge's whole thing. That was his whole MO. Guys are not going to have positions. Yeah. We're going to have the water boy playing offensive coordinator. We're going to have the kicker playing D-tackle.
I've seen a lot of people and a lot of analysts rip on Judge rotating guards, and especially a lot of old offensive linemen who played 20 years ago that can't get over the fact that football's now played a little different now, that ripping him for the rotation. The rotation really only involves
Joe Thomas.
People. It's Lemieux and Will Hernandez who rotated yesterday. That's it. It's not like, there's a different tackle in there every play and there's 5 different combinations. We're talking about 2 to 3 players a week.
No, but they're literally trying to find out who are the guys going forward.
Pert and Fleming were rotating.
Yes.
Pert and Thomas were rotating. Lemieux and Hernandez, all the guys but Gates were rotating at some point for a couple of games.
Yeah, I just don't think it's as much as
right.
Yeah, it's a little overblown. Then you have Nick Mangold saying it's the worst thing he's ever seen, and
right.
Well, it comes down to letting someone be comfortable. I've heard people say, "Oh, it's great what the Giants are doing. These guys are fresh legs every time." But as an athlete, there is such thing as being taken out of the rhythm of the game, which is not good either. I don't think these linemen, honestly, fresh legs. If you've ever been to an NFL game, not just watching on TV, 80% of the time you're standing around, there's commercials, there's timeouts, you're sitting on the bench. It's just, I don't think these guys are getting worn out. I think they're kind of just trying guys out. They think they're about even and they're seeing who emerges.
I think fresh legs is more important on the defensive line if you're really going to pinpoint that as something, but offensive line, you kind of want to have that, chemistry, which is why most people rip on the rotating part. But, you're not good enough to just put out 5 offensive linemen no matter what. You're sticking with them.
Right.
Intel says Thomas is not that bad. He's just a rookie, and that's fair. And I think in most years what he's been doing is kind of about average for a top, for a draft pick in the offensive line. I think why I'm more sensitive to it, and a lot of Giants fans are more sensitive to it, is because there were 4 guys. We had our pick of all of them, and he so far has been unanimously decided upon as the one who's having not a bad year, but the worst year of those 4. So it just makes you feel like an ass. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say, but
Becton's missed a bunch of games, correct? 2, 3?
I think he's missed 3, yeah.
I saw Wirfs getting beat yesterday a few times.
He did get beat yesterday. He's probably been the best, but he did get beat yesterday pretty badly.
Who's the other one? Becton, Wirfs,
Wills.
Thomas. Oh, and yeah. I don't know how he was doing.
Before this year, historically, rookie offensive tackles don't make an impact first year, which Will, like you said, it's hurting us more because I think, shockingly, we're seeing 3 rookie tackles come out hot out of the gate, and that doesn't really happen.
Right.
And understandably so, why would we be so pissed? We drafted the one that obviously is not going to play hot out of the gate.
And he was the consensus guy for the most part was Wirfs, and he's playing the best of everybody. So it's just kind of like, did we outthink ourselves? But I just kind of keep coming back to the fact of the defense is good, and if we can't point fingers on the offense, then why are we 4-7? Why is the offense so bad? What can we do to improve? I don't know what the answer is necessarily. Our average.
Do you think the slow start has anything to do with the whole pandemic, Joe Judge being a rookie coach, not being able to get into like real practices, really see his teammates, everything being virtual? Do you think there's any aspect to that with the slow start?
There is no doubt, as I'll let Jack elaborate on, when you look at the first 4 games for the Giants and then you look at every other game, it is like a completely different team. First 4 games, they were really, really bad, even though they hung in there kind of against, the Steelers. But like the offense, let's say, was just abysmal in the first 4 games. Since then, they've been below average, but not as bad. So there is kind of that 4-game, barrier between the two personalities of the team. Jack, I know you really believe that's a huge thing.
Before this week, and I'm going to Will doesn't somehow think so, but I believe we'd have scored more than 20 points if Jones played the whole game yesterday. That aside, before this win, the first, I can't remember the number, but the first 4 games we were obviously averaging below 20 points, and I believe we're the second to worst or the worst offense in football. From the 5th week on, we were averaging 24.7 points per game, which put us around, I think it was 22. Obviously not good enough, but I think that's telling that, without any preseason games, all new coaching staff, that it definitely does have an impact there.
More so than other teams. I mean, I
guess
let's look at the other coaching staff. Dallas has gone downhill. Who else? Carolina.
Carolina's the same record, right? Carolina.
I think they have more talent on offense than us by a decent margin. Browns, but again, they have a lot of talent on offense.
What do the Browns do?
The Browns coaching staff is new, yeah. Even though that offense isn't lighting it up either by any stretch.
Well, they're undefeated without Odell.
They are.
Aren't they like 3-0?
Yeah, and they don't score any points.
Intel Gatson. The answer is Dave Gettleman. He drafted 3 corners that aren't even playing.
Well, guys, I mean, look at it this way. Dave Gettleman came.
And Beal, I guess.
I guess Beal would be considered the 3rd, yeah.
Well, who are the other ones, though?
Valentine, Wade, and then the felon. Oh, well, I'm sorry. He's not a felon anymore.
But hold up, though. Just because he drafted guys in the late. I mean, those guys was Valentine supposed to play. I mean,
you get the picture.
I think that with Gettleman, he came okay. Do you guys think it's fair to say we don't know? The Giants will probably win about 5 games this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 5 to 6.
Okay, Gettleman inherited a team that was 4-12. Were they 3-13 or 4-12?
No, they were.
I think they were 3-13.
I think 3 or 4.
They went. I think they were 3-13, then 5-11, then 4-12 in his 3 years. This is his 4th year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, in 4 years, he would have added approximately 2 wins, and he said his goal was the offensive line, and the offensive line is ranked as one of the worst offensive lines in football. Now, in his defense, which I don't like to do, he brought in Thomas, who I was a fan of, and he had a slow start. He brought in Zeitler, who was really, really graded well, and he's kind of done okay, but not great. He brought in Will Hernandez, who we all loved, and he had a great rookie year, and he somehow regressed. So it's not. He brought in Solder, who was from a pedigree offensive line, even though every Patriots fan said on Twitter once we got him, you guys are going to hate him because he's not good. He's just a Patriot, and you think he's good because he's a Patriot. So
Correct.
he did make a lot of moves, just none of them worked out. So I'd say, well, I would have made the same moves, but I'm not getting paid millions of dollars to make the moves. I'm doing it for a couple of minutes every day on Twitter. So
Right.
I have to give a little bit more of a responsibility, to get him. But if you take the overview of it, he's been the GM for 4 years, and the team is going to be about 5-11. That's clearly fireable.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a weird situation because the quarterbacks were changing and stuff. But
Well, week 3 or I don't even think it was that deep into it. The Mara and the Tisches were already at odds because he wanted him to be fired then. That's of this year.
Yeah. Now, we can look into next year. Maybe somehow think we've signed a center. I mean, you're looking at possibly 3 huge upgrades because the third is technically Saquon Barclay.
is that an upgrade?
Well, I knew you were going to say that, but
Just asking a question.
I told you I don't totally disagree, but we can't make that assumption right now.
Here's what I think, and I'm going to say it. With this offensive line, Gallman is better. With an offensive line that opens holes, Saquon. That's what I've come to realize about Saquon. In my opinion, it's still early, but it's actually the twilight of his career. He's a running back.
Mm-hmm.
Saquon is not great at creating holes, but because he's plotting, he's low, he stops, he starts, he's got those big legs. But when there is a hole, I think he's the best running back in the NFL. So with an offensive line like this, Gallman's quick ass up the seam thing is better off than Saquon stopping and plotting and looking around. So that's what I think.
Well, the question about Saquon was, how is he in between the tackles, and that doesn't seem to be his strength.
Well, it can be if the tackles are good.
Like with our tackles.
Between our tackles. Between which tackle? But so we'll see. I mean, the rest of the year, I don't know. It's interesting. I think here we got Seattle's up 14-9. That's interesting, man. They're 7-3. They're barely beating Philly in the middle of the third quarter.
Russell Wilson does not look that good right now.
Excuse me. I still think Russell Wilson is magic, but
the Giants with Colt McCoy will not score, in my opinion, more than 15 points. And I think I learned how bad Seattle's defense is today. I had this game if they played. I thought Seattle was better than they are. I hadn't really looked at the numbers. I thought it'd be like I said to Jack earlier, like 38-9 type of a deal. But I don't know. But I'm going to predict something in that vicinity of like a 27-13, maybe. I don't see Colt McCoy leading the Giants to touchdowns.
You don't think it's going to be a Graham Gano fest, baby?
Like a Matt Barr 1990 NFC Championship game, 5 field goals.
Let it rip, baby. Bring him out there.
Wow. But we'll see.
I'm afraid that if we make the playoffs, that saves Gettleman's job. I just don't think he's the future of the Giants. I believe in Dutch though.
At that point, that alone probably makes me want them to not make the playoffs.
Assuming you could sign one big – well, do you re-sign Leonard Williams? We all say yes.
It's gonna sting.
It's gonna hurt. Yeah,
it's gonna hurt. I just don't see how you can at this point. He's 26, and this is the guy that everyone thought he was going to be coming out of the draft. Obviously, he was not in the Jets, but on the other side, you could just say Jets, don't really tap into people's potential.
Yeah.
So it's going to sting, but I feel like you gotta keep that interior line together.
Excuse me.
It's the strength. It's the reason they have the 5th best rush defense in football.
I was a little excited when I saw the Galladay rumors.
At the deadline?
Yeah, I think that's potential if they don't tag him. But who knows? Who even knows Detroit's ownership?
If you don't sign Leonard Williams, what signing makes you happy that we didn't sign Leonard Williams? You know what I mean? Like what replacement? Because
Dupree, Shaq.
I don't even like Yannick as much anymore.
You loved Yannick last
I
year.
know. Well, I thought
heart.
he'd continue to get better, and he really hasn't.
I haven't even heard about him this year.
He got traded to the Ravens mid-year.
Yeah, no, I haven't even.
No, I haven't heard anything.
I haven't
You
heard
never
of-
take a running back in the first round again, says Mike A.
Can't disagree with that.
Wow. Okay, so go down the list of needs of where you would go. You could go ahead and bring in draft or sign somebody. If you could bring in a really good player to be really good next year at a position, you were guaranteed. Give me the list of like the top 3 of where you would put that person. What's the number one thing you would want to come in and be really good, either in the draft or in free agency?
Oh man, I want
Because we're picking from a pool of 5. Can we
Right.
agree
So,
on the
I was
5?
gonna say, am I-
Receiver, line, corner, linebacker, edge. I mean, does anybody disagree with those?
No,
No.
those are the 5 needs.
no.
Now,
To
can I
me,
be-
it's receiver.
I think
They need a lineman.
I think it's O-line, receiver. I don't know the
I say
corner number 2.
O-line, receiver, and I would say edge, but that's not realistic.
Marco, you say corner, O-line, and wide receiver?
Yeah.
That's what I say too. But they're not going to bring a
Wait,
lineman in. I just
corner?
don't.
No. Oh, I think
What?
O-line for. I think O-line.
Well, you
No,
don't think
I'm saying forget the order for a second. My top 3 are receiver, O-line, and corner.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Giants are going to bring in an offensive lineman. I think that they're
you
going to
don't
be
think
like,
you don't think they'll sign a center?
Well,
If
you said
if he's there.
I thought the premise was either free agency or draft.
it is.
You don't think they'll sign a center if those guys don't resign with their teams?
I don't trust them because they've put so much into the O-line. Everyone loves Gates. Everyone's so
Yeah,
high
but they
on
didn't
these
really
guys.
invest into Gates. So if Gates by the end of the year isn't like lighting up the place, I don't think he has any position on the team. And he's one of those guys that is versatile. So if you cut Zeitler, you can have him compete for the right guard position if you
I don't
really
want
like his
him on the
competitiveness.
line. I just don't want him on the
Somebody's
line.
got to play guard.
Also,
Yeah.
Judge isn't out there like bashing his players. He's very like complimentary of all his players. Even though behind the scenes he might be like, "You fucking suck."
What's the one player you think they will definitely invest in early, either early in the draft or in free agency, that they will definitely bring in the first 2 rounds or in free agency? I think it's receiver.
I think it's receiver because they've already shown that they were.
I think it's
poking around to
receiver.
see who would trade. Yeah.
I think it's receiver as long as they're cutting Tate, which I would anticipate. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna go
especially if they're drafting in that like teens area, late teens.
I would
That's
say
like-
receiver.
Mike Gorski's got a long one here. Resign Tomlinson, unless he's saying for Tomlinson to resign. I think he means resign Tomlinson.
Resign.
And Ryan, let Williams walk. Contract year. He's giving contract year effort.
I
Okay.
did mention that earlier.
Take the compensation pick that will come in 22. Find his replacement in the second or third in 21. I mean, you're not going to find probably a replacement for an inside guy who can stop the run and get 12 sacks in a year or whatever he's on pace to have this year. You're not going to replace that in the second or third round, most likely.
I don't hate it. I wouldn't be mad if that is the direction the Giants went, because that opens up a lot of money to go somewhere else.
If I can only see that happening if Gettleman isn't the GM.
For 100%.
He's already played his card. He tried the guy, gave up third and a fifth, couldn't re-sign him, had a franchise tag him. He's like desperate for him.
Yeah.
So I most likely think they're going to re-sign him.
I still don't know if I would resign Logan Ryan. I think he's a nice, solid role player. I don't think he's really anything special.
But let's be realistic. He wasn't signed this year for a reason. It's not like he broke the bank, so I don't think he's like going to do the same thing again.
The problem is, and I don't know if this alters GM's mindsets. He is somehow leading the NFC in Pro Bowl voting for free safety. He's going to be a Pro Bowler most likely.
Well, he's got two. Where was he before he came to the Giants?
The Titans, I believe.
Dolphins? No. Okay. So
Yeah,
he's got
Titans,
two. He's got two fan.
England.
He's got two fan bases who are voting for him, right? Who votes? The fans or the players?
Fans.
I think it's the fans. I don't really know. I hate the Pro Bowl. I think it's a joke.
Um.
Right. They're not even having a Pro Bowl. This is just
obviously not the best free safety in the NFC. He's not.
Mike says it was 12 months ago. You were calling his trade idiotic. Now, I don't know if I was around 12 months ago. I was also against it, Marco. I think what I'm going to say is probably what you were going to say is that it wasn't that anybody said Leonard Williams wasn't good. Right. It was the fact that they gave up draft picks just to get a 4-week look at him when they could have just signed him in the free agency without getting a look at him.
The trade was idiotic. The player is a good player. It's just how you acquired him makes no sense to me. Still doesn't. It's a fireable offense. But they got to correct this here with Galladay. They didn't go for the 3rd and 5th to get him over here, and then they're going to try to do it the right way and maybe get him in free agency.
I just
squeeze the juice or the apple or whatever the hell analogy he gave.
My thing is that I don't think the Giants are going to address the offensive line, and I think that as the O-line goes, because don't forget another thing, guys. You look at the stats on Jones. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL with a clean pocket, and he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL without a clean pocket. Now you'd be like, well, can't you say that about anybody? But no, they had to keep a stat for it. When he's clean, he's good. When he's not, it's a shit show at this point. So I just think it's very important that you got a few decent guys on the offensive line and some young guys, but I think you need to bring in some real heavy hitters, some guys who can move, guys who can really dominate on the offensive line, even if it's one guy. But I try to bring in two. I think that it would because then kind of like what's stopping. If you had a receiver who can get open, a number one, and two really good offensive linemen kind of anchor things down, what's really stopping the offense from going then? And the defense is already good. So I just think those are so key. And you know me with edge rusher, I am like, you picture me having a sign above my head, edge rusher, edge rusher. The Giants are like something like 9th or 10th. So I'm not an idiot. It's not their biggest pressing need. It would be nice, but I
think it'd be fantastic.
It would, but
I can't imagine how good that D-line can be if they actually had. Look at the edge rushers they're putting out there every week. I think they have the worst edge rushers in all of football. And like you said, they rank like anywhere between like 9th and 12th in sacks per game. Yeah. I can't even imagine how dominant that unit could be if you add just one good edge rusher with that interior D-line.
Does it matter if you can't score? Do we just become the Redskins, the 2020 football team?
No, but that's where depending on the talent that you can get, that's where I kind of rank edge a little bit above that number 2 corner spot, because you can find doable corners on a year-to-year basis. Like a guy like Prince Amukamara is still out there, and he actually played well last year. He could have been a plug and play. I don't know why anyone hasn't given him a look.
He's always injured though.
I like Mike A. I like Mike A. He agrees with me. He's my boy. Marco, what were you talking about?
Is anyone worried now that? Yes. I was thinking two thoughts. Jones' style of play, he's taking big hits. Anyone worried about that style of play going forward? And part 2, not related, but has me worried, that Patrick Graham his name is starting to crop up for like head coaching material, hot coordinator. I think he's done a good job. I don't want to see him bounce.
I don't think he'll be a head coach candidate this year. Maybe next year, but on the plus side now, if he does become a head coach, and good for him, he deserves it so far if he keeps going. We get 2 third-round picks for that, for grooming him.
Is that how it works? You didn't hear about the new rule, Marco?
No.
If you, I don't even know how to say this, but
if you, as
if a minority coach
player,
is taken from you, you get 2 third-round
as a head coach, if he's hired as a head coach,
which is a lot of people think it's a good idea. A lot of people think it's ridiculous because it sounds like you're. I'm not gonna. I mean, people of all races have different opinions on it, but I know some people who think it's almost like, so you're black, like you're like, not for lack of a better word.
That's like a footnote on the Rooney Rule.
It's brand new. They just approved it like a couple weeks ago. But Jack, we didn't groom. I thought it was people that you brought up through your system type of thing.
I still think this would count. I mean, he's a coordinator. I think as long as he goes and gets hired as a head coach, you get the picks.
It's
how big of a pick is it?
It's
2/3.
I can't even say the word.
Compensatory.
Jack,
don't shy away. Don't shy away from your problem. Say compensatory. You can do it. We're all listening.
Thank you. Compensatory.
Yes, very good.
Is that the rule though? I don't know, because I thought it was if you take him through your system, not if he was with you for 1 year. Does anybody know?
I don't know. And like I said, I don't think he'll be a head coach next year. In 2 years, maybe. Those details I don't know.
And wouldn't that incentivize people to like get rid of their coaches if you need picks? And wouldn't it disincentivize or de-incentivize people if you're gonna hire a minority coach and he's in your division? You don't feel like taking him then because you don't want your division rival to get 2 picks for it. It's just so weird, the bartering. Yeah. I don't know, guys.
I understand why they're doing it, but like I don't like involving picks like that. Although I do,
it almost devalues. And again, 3 white guys can't hear and talk about it, but I've seen minority, on Twitter, people saying it's almost like have to incentivize it. Like you have to like, oh, we'll give you this if you just give it's almost like it's almost belittle. I don't know. Some people think it's a good idea because of where it could take you. Some people think it's a strange way to go about it. Marco, to answer your first question though, about Jones's style of play, and I want to know what you guys think about this. I don't think it's necessarily his style of play. It seems to me that more than 50% of his runs are designed runs. So that's the coach. Even this one, when he got hurt, was a designed run, I think, right? I forget the play. Or did he just take off up the middle?
Was it on an RPO?
I don't remember. I know it was up the middle. But so I think that's more on the coaching staff. He's not just taking off all the time. I think the coaching staff is going to have to be like, okay, hey, this guy's not Michael Vick. We've seen what happens to guys like Cam Newton, how much they can get cracked. Also, Jones isn't exactly sliding, like Jackie Robinson into home plate. He's a little gawky on his slides.
I also think that they're running more of these plays because they don't have Barclay. I think when he comes back, you won't see this as much. Whether that's going to be the right move for the offense is a different conversation.
Did you hear the stat about Jones?
We got the picture, guys. This is breaking news. We got the picture of us on the 65-inch TV.
Oh, boy.
Looking pretty sharp. Hold on.
Oh, I thought you were going to put it up. What is this? 65 inches down to an iPhone mini?
Hold on. I'm trying to get it in there.
Is that a fucking iPod Nano with a screen on it? What is that?
This is a very sophisticated machine.
Listen, did you guys hear the stat? Is it 1,800 or 18,000 men? One of those two. Big difference. Let's just say 1,000. Who have ever in the NFL rushed the ball at least 70 times. Ever.
What was that?
And who has the highest yards per carry in the history of the NFL out of all those 1,800 or 1,000 people who have rushed the ball like 50 or more times?
In a year.
No, in a career. Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, for however many rushes he has, like he has like 70 rushes or 40 rushes, something. There have been like 1,800 or 18,000 men who have had that many carries. He has the highest yards per carry in the history of the NFL. Shorten it all, David. Shorten it all to one sentence. Daniel Jones is the greatest running back in NFL history.
Can't argue with that.
So we trade Saquon. We trade Gallman.
I would love trading Saquon.
Oh man.
What do you get? What do you get for an injured running back?
But you can't. You got to unfortunately wait till after, or maybe at the deadline next year if he's healthy.
I don't know why you just reminded me, Marco, of like, you know that song, "What becomes of the broken heart?" It's like, what do you get for an injured running back? Mike says that it was. Mike says it was a designed run. You know what's really sad about the state of the Giants, guys? Every once in a while, I will watch. I have some of the Giants games on my TV still, and from this year, and every once in a while, I'll still watch that long Jones run where he fell on his face, because the first 90% of it was the most exciting thing that's happened to the Giants in a long time on a single play, and I will literally watch it just to feel the excitement of the pre-fall moment. Yeah. Even though it ends in him face planting, because for that 5 seconds I can go, this was the moment when the world said the Giants are doing something good.
You know, I think honestly, I think that all comes down to self-confidence.
What? In my part or on Jones's part?
Him falling on his ass.
He didn't fall on his ass.
He fell on his face.
Why?
He's probably never.
His body's never run that far before.
Far or fast. He's never run that far or fast.
No one's ever run that fast. That was Usain Bolt.
Because it was the sixth look back that caught him. Because he was so surprised he was that far ahead.
No, dude, his body.
He looked back. He looked back again.
His legs gave out.
Yeah,
this is literally what happened.
His legs went to jelly.
His legs gave out.
That's what happened.
He didn't look back that many times.
Yes, he did. Watch, I counted him.
He looked back a couple times. I'll give Marco that.
He looked back a couple of times, but
on that last one, he looked back and then it was like,
He looked. He fell because his body. He tried to go too fast for his own body. That's what it was.
He could hit top speed.
His top speed was, I think, 1.4 miles an hour slower than DK Metcalf's top speed when he ran down that guy earlier in the year. That's true.
Frank Wander with maybe the question of the night.
Hold on, let me pin that one. Okay, here we go. How can I tell if my girlfriend has a yeast infection?
I do not have that answer.
I do. I'm not going to go there.
As a medical professional over here.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Marco, this is Marco.
Is there any discharge?
Oh, dude.
Frank, those are things you have to wonder about, okay?
That's funny.
All right, gentlemen, do you want to end on that note? On diagnosing issues of the female?
It's unlike any other.
Mike A. No, that's something. There it is. Look back.
He looked
right
back
there.
once.
As soon as he looked back the second time.
Once. You said 6 times.
I think it was twice.
I think I caught him twice.
6 times, bro. You are wrong.
Listen, look. 1, 2.
No, 2. Dude, what are you 1-2ing? You're just saying the numbers 1, 2.
Show it again. Everyone, look at the comments flowing. Everyone's agreeing with me. Look at them. Look, yeah. Look back.
Yeah, look back. What the hell? What is this? All right, here we go. You can't take Jones' legs and athleticism and not expect him to make plays. Dude tore a hamstring. Wait, what? Is he pro or against it? You know how athletic you have to be to tear a hamstring.
He didn't tear a hamstring, but we'll continue.
You want to trade Saquon? Wait till he has an O-line defense. I agree with an O-line. He'll be awesome.
I can't wait till he's 35 and we finally have an O-line.
They need to keep Gallman, Saquon. It's actually Quan. And then Jones won't have to run, period. True, could be blessing. I mean, I went back on my own Twitter stuff looking like a year ago. I've been saying Gallman's good forever, and I used to get killed for it. I'm not saying he's great, but I just always thought he was good. I mean, he has no moves. He's just like a wind-up toy car that goes in one direction.
To be fair, the only reason why I don't want Saquon is I don't want to pay him. It has nothing to do with Saquon Barclay.
Yeah, no, he's a good running back.
Don't put up Mike's comment, but look at Mike's comment.
Oh, boy.
I was going to do a focaccia joke for my Italians out there, but I decided.
Mike, baby, Mike.
I also had DK Metcalf as my 10th overall player in the draft, and he went what 67.
That's a player that I bought into everyone's BS about DJ Metcalf. DK Metcalf.
I bought into a little bit. I thought he'd be a deep threat only, really.
Yeah, he's only fast. He has no lateral movement.
He's
this
Megatron.
guy is ridiculous.
He's Megatron. How are my boys that I was down on? Lavon Chausson and Isaiah Simmons, who both I said they weren't.
Simmons had a good game the other week, I believe.
Isaiah Simmons has been on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just said he wasn't a top 10 pick. That's all I said about him. As we say that, DK Metcalf just dropped a touchdown pass.
No, you're right.
He was contested though. The other guy was Lavon Chausson.
What is the current score in that game?
It's 17-9, I believe.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my God, he's got to catch that. Yeah, I just literally hit him right in the hands and chest. You know what happens sometimes to wide receivers when you think you're going to be contested and you're not, and so you kind of change up what you're doing with your hands, and then no one ends up touching you, and then you kind of drop it,
smack the ball around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, chase on or whatever. That's what I think. Like in the upcoming draft, we'll see. But I don't think you got to go edge. I don't think they're going to bring in line. I hope they're bringing offensive line.
So who are they going to bring in? Who are they going to bring in? No edge, no line. Who are they bringing in?
Corners.
They're re-signing who they got.
Corner. They're going to bring in a corner. They're going to bring in a wide receiver.
Okay.
And they're going to bring in an edge.
Oh, they are going to bring in an edge, you think?
Yeah, I think they will do that. And I'm afraid line is going to get pushed aside. Now, Marco, the big news was that Daniel Jeremiah, who's very, very trusted and kind of even bumped himself up a bit by being the first guy to talk big about Becton when nobody else was. And so far, very early on, seems like he knew what he was talking about. He just said that, is it Rashawn Slater? He has him ranked ahead of Penny Swell, my boy Penny Swell, Penei Sewell. And it set the Twitter world on fire. People saying, what? Sewell is supposed to be the greatest offensive tackle prospect ever. And Jeremiah right now has this guy Slater ranked number 1. He's like a 6'3.5" tackle from Northwestern who also took the year off this year, like Sewell. So we won't ever know anything else about these guys. I'd love to draft that guy in the first round and make him some kind of an offensive lineman. I don't care what position you put him at.
Yeah, because I think he's one of those versatile. I don't really know what this means, but I know what it means. But he's one of those versatile linemen that I guess has played not only tackle.
Marco, you look like you're thinking or looking into something. What's happening in the mind of Marco right now?
Yeah, I just saw myself comment when I didn't comment, so I was trying to.
I was going to say, was that you? The cut tape give his money to Juju.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. It's probably some
hacker.
Someone got your login.
Yeah.
We have no number 1 receiver. True. We need a second corner. True. That's why you bring in an offensive lineman in free agency. You draft a wide receiver number 1. You probably take a corner number 2. And then after that, you get an offensive lineman, the best one available. And now we're working. Now we're playing. After that, you go edge and linebacker, whatever extra money you have. Now we're playing.
Remember when I said week 3, like, I can't believe we're talking about the draft already. And now we're here, and I'm like, we're playoffs, baby. I can't believe we're talking about this. We're in the playoff
how many
baby.
teams right now are simultaneously talking about potentially making the playoffs and potentially having a top 5 pick?
It's like, what?
Because I said 2 weeks ago, I
Sure.
said the only team in the NFC East that has no chance to make the playoffs to win the division is the Redskins, and then they destroy the Cowboys, and now I'm like, I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Watch you get him in draft another defensive tackle. You know he loves himself with defensive tackles.
Let him really
But
walks. We don't know.
In his defense, I felt like last year was like, oh, linebacker, especially in the later rounds.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, I'm gonna call it a night, and
it's 20-9 Seattle, 11 minutes left, so not totally out of the woods, but sounds like probably first place.
it
We'll
looks
see
like
what
we're holding on.
happens. We'll see what happens in the coming week. Or if we're not going to come on again this week, do you guys want to make predictions based on McCoy as the starter?
Ooh, I'm gonna try to come on at least Wednesday.
At least Wednesday. All right. Well, in case I can't, as of right now, I'm going to stick with
Your very early prediction. Go ahead, go for it.
very early. I'll say, although this game is throwing me a little bit because if they only have 20 against the Eagles defense,
Mhm.
then I'm starting to say other things, but they put up more at home even though there's no crowd.
And there's still time.
I'll say there is still time. I guess I'll say 27-13 Seattle because the lack of Giants offense will aid in Seattle scoring.
Yeah, I like that score too. I was gonna go like 27 or 30-10.
Yeah.
It's
And
gonna
maybe
be
it'll be closer, but I don't see the Giants moving the ball.
Yeah.
it's gonna be a tough one. We don't know what's gonna happen. You know, maybe every single Seattle quarterback has to be quarantined, and
You never know now.
You don't know. And
Hey,
Pat Shermer's son is gonna come. I don't know, and sign. Who knows?
Bradbury versus Metcalf. We'll see how that goes.
All right, gentlemen.
All
I
right,
will
Marco.
see you as soon as possible. I'm going to try to come on again. You guys are always more than welcome.
Thanks, Marco, for being on the front lines of our healthcare. Thank you
Yes.
to everybody who wrote and joined us. We appreciate it. Spread the word. We're doing this. We're fans like you guys, and we're just trying to, in our own little way, our own individual way, we're trying to do figure out what's best for the G-men. So.
And Frank, I hope everything is cleared up down there.
Marco, you do medical exams?
You need to set up an appointment.
Marco, this is a different vein. I wouldn't go there. Marco, you do medical exams?
I've done them before, yes.
Okay, you need to give Mike Gorski a checkup from the neck up because he's predicting 34-10 Giants this weekend. I love the enthusiasm, Mike. I love it. But Seahawks, Seahawks, not GIANT. All right, guys.
All right, everyone.
Take it easy.
Take it easy.
Later.